Hello and welcome back to the Unlicensed Therapist. For those of you who are joining us again and have been following our journey, thank you for your support. And for those of you who are finding us for a first time, welcome. Pull up a seat and join us as we delve into the world of counseling. Just a note for everyone to be aware that we now have a presence on social media. We can be found on Facebook and LinkedIn under the Unlicensed Therapist Podcast. Both have pages and a great place to communicate with other listeners or myself. So if you have ideas of topics that you'd like to hear about, if you're a potential guest and would like to maybe guest on the podcast, a great way to reach out. Here soon I will be listing the email address that we've created for the podcast as well, so that's all coming. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently since we don't have a guest lined up and I'm going to be away for vacation next week. I didn't want to leave things just sort of hanging for a long period of time. So I'm going to invite you all to look at counseling, look at your counseling skills through a different lens. Through the lens of another part of yourself. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about the idea that there is a part of us that is the therapist, a part of us that there is the partner, a part of us that is the child, maybe the parent, but we also have other occupations that we've had, other hobbies that we've had, and I'm inviting you to pull from those things to see how they may have enriched or already prepared you for that real therapy room. And today we're going to explore how theater may have prepared me for the therapy room. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back. Picture it. The auditorium has filled with an audience. You can hear their low conversations under the music that is playing, that is a signal for you to get into your place for the beginning of the show. You're standing in the wings and waiting for the lights to go down. You're filled with a feeling of anticipation, excitement, and absolute terror all in one. It's got your nervous system on a high. You're about to walk out on stage and become someone totally different for the next 2 hours. And it's freeing. It's so wonderful. What I just described is how I feel before stepping out onto the stage to perform, as well as how I feel opening that therapy room door and inviting a client into that space. Because both the stage and that therapy room space are my safe spaces, and it is my role to bring other people into that space and have them experience that same feeling of safety. What you learn as an actor when it comes to just being an actor, let's start there. I think the best thing I ever learned was from my very first acting teacher, who said, anyone can be an actor. Some people just need to work a little harder at it than others. And I think the same is 100% true with a therapist. Anyone can be a therapist. Some people just have to work a little bit harder at it than others. It doesn't mean that you can't develop certain qualities or skills, or that you just will find the niche where your type of therapist 100% belongs. When you're on stage and you're performing, be it rehearsal, be it an actual performance production, you're obviously not alone. There are other individuals typically on that stage with you. And while your script is sort of the treatment plan that that team of actors are using, the dialogue for some people may think is just as easy as rote memorization and just listen for the cue word and then respond with what is on the page. The reality is you have to feel something, you have to be engaged, you have to be listening. So how does that happen? Well, number one, how do you feel something? There is an acting technique called acting from dark places, where you're going into your mind and you're thinking about a time where you felt a certain emotion that you're trying to bring up in that character, so that there's not only you feeling a certain way, but you're bringing it into that character. There's also the idea that while you're on stage, if you're just listening for that cue word, if you're not actively listening, then you can run into absolute catastrophe. Actors aren't perfect. They forget lines, they flub, they mess things up, and you need to cover each other. You need to make sure that things make sense to the audience. I can remember going out on stage for a production of The Miser, and it was myself and two other actors. One that I'd gone to college with and was so confident with that I felt so safe, and another that I didn't know as well, but I felt safe with that actor. And I went to give a line, and my mind went blank. And it's not just that it went blank on what I should say. The thoughts I were having were things that my character was thinking, but really was not appropriate to be said out loud. And my eyes were screaming, "Help me." And thankfully, the other actors saw that and swooped in and helped bring me back to where I needed to be to push the story forward. When I am the therapist and I'm in the room with a client who may be telling me the same story for the umpteenth time, it is still my responsibility to be actively listening, not just be listening for that cue word at the end of the story, or do the aha, mm-hmm, and let them continue on, because they're telling me that story for a reason. So, number one, I'm listening to see what's different this time, or what is it that you keep pressing on that we haven't come to that gives you the need to talk about this particular scenario again and again and again. Also, I'm listening for what happens if the story changes. If I'm not actively listening and actively engaged, and the story changes, and I just throw out my normal comment, that could be severely damaging to the therapeutic relationship, because there it becomes evident that I haven't been listening to you, and the message it sends is that you're not very important to me. And if I'm coming in to the therapy room, a place where you're going to preach to me is a safe place, a place free of judgment, then I also feel that I should be the number one priority. And if you're not listening to me, and you're not thinking about what I have to say, then why am I here? Theater taught the act of listening, the being very aware of an individual, not only what they said, but how they said it, and that those changes truly meant something, and that those changes that meant something were clues to me to put the puzzle together that would lead towards an intervention or a breakthrough. Now, one of the other things as an actor that I recall learning was in a class called Movement for the Actor. And you may see or have a favorite actor who's in several different roles, and you may notice that their movement changes, depending on what character or type of character that they're playing. Someone who is playing a character with an injured leg may drag that leg to show that the leg is injured. They may hunch over if they have an injured back, or if maybe it's more of a gothic type of character that they're playing that's similar to Igor. What I was trained to do was to watch other people in that class and in my college community and learn to mimic them. Now, when I say mimic them, I'm not saying that I was doing it in a harsh, rude way. I was learning how to verbalize how someone moved, how their movements changed, observe little parts of their movements, and copy them, and then bring those new movements that were foreign to me into a character. When I started in mental health, I did not have any background. So when it came to talking to my supervisors, I very much had discussions with them when it came to those that I was working with about what I physically saw and what I verbally heard people saying and doing. And I could describe those things in detail. I didn't know at the time what they meant, But my supervisors did. They could take that information and tie it to different meanings that I would learn later down the line. And now, as a therapist, I sit in my room. I wait for the person to come in. They come in. I watch how they walk, how they sit, how they lean forward, what happens with their hands, what's changed from a previous visit, what that person looking comfortable looks like, what that person looking anxious looks like, what that person looking sad looks like, and I begin to question things and point out to the person what I see as a difference in their physicality or their vocalization, with the hopes of learning from them that the meanings of those differences and teaching them in turn that their body is giving off signals about how they're feeling and that they can become aware of them just as much as I can. Using the skills of active listening and observation that I learned as an actor to bring a character to life in the therapy room makes me more attentive and in the moment, more observational of the person I'm with, and more aware. Now that we're more actively listening, we're more present and more aware of what's going on, we can take a look at another skill that I learned as an actor, and that's improvisation. Improvisation is a time in which an actor is given a character and a location, but no lines, and asked to make the scene up as they go along with another actor. And this means sharing that space with someone. This means to keep that scene going as long as possible, you have to relinquish control and power. You can't be the one in charge, and the other actor, your scene partner, can't be the one in charge. It has to be a give and take. And when you take that idea into the therapy room, that we're going to relinquish power over the client, we're going to allow this to be as simple as a give and take. That heightens the idea of this being a judgment-free zone. It allows you to be more spontaneous with your responses. Now, when I say that, we're obviously going to have clients who may say things that we're not expecting or go off on tangents. And the ability to be spontaneous, the ability to use that as a redirection tool to either A, bring someone back to the topic, or dive deeper into the rabbit hole they're going into and try to learn why they're making the choice to go here rather than another location. Too often as therapists, we walk into the room with a very set mind of this is where the session is going to go today. And so we try to make the session go in places that we want it to go, when in truth, we need to be able to improvise and be present, and by actively listening, by being observant of our client, know when a redirection back to the topic is necessary and when exploration of where the client is taking us is necessary. And both can be equally as valid. But if we're constantly redirecting the client back to where we want them to go, they're going to begin very quickly to see us as having all the power in the room, us as the ones that have a narrative that we want to hear, and then we risk them telling us things to make us happy rather than telling us things that will help them to heal. And there's a difference there, obviously. Would I love it if all of my clients told me things that would only make me happy? I'd be lying if I said no to that. But it's far more important that I hear the things that are going to help bring healing, that we're going to be able to dive into, or that will give me an idea that says, I'm ready to go here, or I'm letting you know about this, but I'm not ready to go here. And it's being able to pick up on those cues, go with them, and respond in the moment. And if you're getting told, nope, I can't go here, then rather than have a set mind, all right, then there's these other places we can go, such as, okay, you walk me down this path, let's go back up the path and see what some other important points were, maybe. I think that providing a space where there is no leader, no follower, there is no power structure, is the healthiest thing that we can do. I can remember going into a hospital, and I was in the hospital and I was having my blood pressure checked, and it was coming back high, which at that time was a little odd. And one of the nurses had the doctor step out of the room and checked it again, and it had instantly dropped significantly. And what she became aware of was that I was suffering from what she called white coat syndrome. I was very aware that that doctor had a power over me, that there were things that that doctor could do that other people could not do, and it was causing me stress, which in turn was raising my blood pressure. We have this title of therapist. We have these letters after our names. We have, some of us, licenses and things like that that make us seem like we are so untouchable. And people are coming to us for help, and they think that we know all the answers. I don't have a crystal ball that shows the future, and my life's not perfect. I can give someone some guidance on ways to improve themselves, and some of that advice I've taken myself, And let's be honest, some of it I haven't taken, but again, that's why I'm in therapy. But even in my case of being in therapy, the one reason I'm there is there's no power structure. There's no one that I feel like can do something to me that would harm me. I feel safe. And it's only by creating that type of space and being able to improv those responses to our clients, to allow them to go into spaces that may be uncomfortable and then turn around, and as they're coming out, we can explore other areas of interest. As a director of theatrical productions, one of my roles is to meet with actors and discuss the development of their characters. And while the script gives certain clues and certain amount of information, there is a lot of area that needs filled in. And that happens through these types of discussions and decisions that the actor makes. Things like, what is your culture may not be fully clear, so that actor may be making that choice. Health status, past traumas, things as easy as where they grew up, did they finish school, different topics such as this that are discussed in detail to flesh out a character that is in an 80 to 90 page play to a full human being. And at the time that I was doing this, I had no clue that when I went to grad school, I would be given an assignment to conceptualize a case, and suddenly my client would become this character that I was building, not because they were fictional, but because I was doing almost the same thing on paper that I did with the living human being. I was asking the same questions, but I was answering them for myself rather than having the actor purely answer them and me giving input. And this showed me truly how much therapy falls into theatricality, into play, into pretend. Today was very much off the cuff. It was something that popped into my mind that I felt the need to share with you. What was the purpose? Well, the purpose, quite honestly, was to have you look at your passions and ask, what have I learned from playing baseball, being a sports coach, being an elementary school teacher, a bank teller, working at an amusement park, that I didn't even realize I brought into the therapy room with me, into my counseling identity with me, and how does that affect me as a professional? Let's go all the way back to the beginning. I said that I feel the same way right before I step out on stage as I feel right before I open the door to let someone into my therapy room. There is one big difference. When I step out on stage, my intent is to be a different person, to be a character. When I open that therapy door, I have a choice. I can play Matt the therapist, or I can be Matt. Now, by being myself, that doesn't mean that I'm not being professional, but it also means that I'm being authentic and honest both to myself and to the person that's walking into my therapy room. If you found this episode interesting, engaging, then please like and share this episode. Remember, you're going to be unlicensed as long as you continue to learn. And I'm unlicensed because I am still learning. I'll see you next time. Take care until then. Bye-bye.